stealing past the shadows of the blissfully dead, looking for the victim, shivering in bed, searching out fear in the gathering gloom. Suddenly a movement in the corner of the room. There's nothing I can do when I realize the fright. The Spider-Man is having me for dinner tonight.
Hello and welcome to the Holy Hour Podcast, the all-cure bi-weekly podcast. I'm Gavin and welcome back. It is now 2020, the year 2020. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and survived that and New Year's and is all still in one piece and ready to take on the world again as we kick off this whole new calendar. And yeah, man, whew, boy, is this exhausting. So we're going to hit it a little slow, kind of a recovery episode here before we dive into anything epic on the new year here on the podcast. But I like to kind of start out with a semi-tradition now with a covers episode just to get something rolling, to have my feet on the ground before we focus on anything major. So apologies if anything major has happened in between this time. I do a lot of traveling for Christmas, so if any major news has gone down, we'll get to it, don't worry. But as of now, there's no word on the new record, and there's no new word on touring or anything like that. So all's fairly quiet, but like I said, apologies if it's all going down. Just so you know, Donald is doing great. He's still on the moon, but he's really getting used to it. He's got this whole system down up there, so we'll be checking in on him still, keeping tabs on him. But for you guys, I know you've been sending me messages and flowers and concerned that Donald may never come back. You know, if he's going to be up there until this new album comes out. But, you know, he's in it to win it. So just wanted to let you know he's doing great. And we'll keep an eye on him and check in very soon. So we're thinking of you down here, Donald. But in the meantime, we got to get this episode rolling. So I hope everybody had a great holiday. Like I said, got some cool Cure presents. You know, I got the glove with the original demos of Robert singing The Glove on vinyl. My brother bought it for me as a gift. It's a bootleg, but it's the a really cool bootleg to have. It's the one that you know, has the Robert vocals. So I always was wondering why they didn't release that with the reissue of the glove. But now I don't have to worry about it. So thanks, Owen. So yeah, if you receive some cool Cure-related gifts over the holidays, I'd love to hear about them. So we'll start a little section for that in the Facebook page. You can throw it in there, or in the year in review one. Speaking of the year in review episode, I hope you guys like that. A bit goofy as always, but you know, how else are you gonna wrap up the year? But on top of that, I did want to include something that popped up after we recorded that. I believe it was from a magazine, but Robert listed his to Hot Press magazine about the highlights and the most memorable moments of his year. It was basically just a quick list, so here I'll read it for you. Robert Smith's Hero of 2019, The Whistleblower. Villain of 2019, Boris Johnson. Best personal moment, our Mexico City show, he says. Best movie, Apollo 11. Best record, It Won't Be Like This All the Time by The Twilight Sad. Best TV program, I didn't watch any TV in 2019. Best book, This Life by Martin Hugland. A lot of people probably ended up getting that for Christmas after he listed that. I know, I'm curious about it. Best thing about 2019, the summer festivals. So someone's still on board with the festivals. Your hope for next year, new music. What tickled your funny bone, Laurel and Hardy. So not too many bombshell revelations there, but always good to get a list of favorites from Robert Smith. So Onward. As I said, this is a covers episode. We've done covers episodes in the past. I should have looked it up. I think this might be around the 4th one or 5th one even, maybe. Did a couple in the first few seasons, then try to just keep it one a season or a year. And here's kind of the criteria. I try to keep it newer, so they're newer ones that we haven't heard of maybe, but not exclusively. There's always ones that get by and that basically weren't mentioned in other episodes is the only real criteria I hold against there. But at the same time too, I don't want to just pluck any dingus off of YouTube that's playing a Cure cover, so it's, you know, kind of a thin line. I like to see what's cool and what catches my eye and throw it out there. Maybe you have it or haven't heard of it. Always looking for new ones. So if you've listened back to the other episodes and there's been like a well-known band cover that I didn't cover, didn't address, you should let me know. We've mentioned in the past, and I think I've narrowed down my opinion of what makes a great Cure cover. You'll have to let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me or have a different criteria, but it's tough. I'm going to tell you right on the top again, I'm usually not a very big fan of Cure covers. I like covers in general. It's always fun and cool to hear somebody else sing a song, but Cure covers are tough. It's just you love the band too much, and I don't know. The songs are pretty much perfect the way they are, so you can't really improve on them very easily. But that being said, it's always fun to hear them and see what these bands are doing, especially if it's another band that you dig or you've at least aware of. So what I think makes a great Cure cover, I think I boil it down to, and it's fairly obvious, but I think like if you can add a certain element to the song that's unique, as in your own artist style, that's great. And you're not totally changing up the song too much. You got to change it up a bit, but you can't change it up too much. So it's basically the two extremes I hate, because you have bands that try to just, reinvent the song. They pull the rug out from under it and just pull out the whole bass line or pull out the whole thing or this or that. And, points for trying something different, but, the song's awesome for a reason. So if you're taking out chunks of why it's awesome, it's probably not going to work. Second one is you can go too safe with them. If you just play, the song exactly the way the Cure do it, that's great and all. Unless you have some super cool, unique quality to your voice or your band, it usually doesn't work either. We've seen that on past compilations that we've talked about where the surprisingly awesome band is covering the Cure, and it's like, it just doesn't really add anything. It's just them playing the Cure. So while pleasant and safer, it usually doesn't work either. So I think the ones that work best are when they, it's somebody that has like a distinct style and they're doing it, such as like the Dinosaur Jr. cover is probably cited most commonly as a great cover. Whether you like Dinosaur Jr. or not, I mean, J Mascis's voice is so unique that basically him doing the Cure sounds like Dinosaur Jr. and unique still, but the song's so good. They didn't totally change it up other than making it heavier. So yeah, I think that's a good one that falls right in there. And as you'll see in this episode in particular, I lean towards really liking the idea of like female vocals doing Robert Smith songs, because a lot of times it's the vocals that get me. Just because he's, not even because it's the main thing up front and center, but it's just because, it's Robert's voice, and a lot of times if it's guys singing it, we don't sing as high as Robert, so you have to bump it down, and that gets hard, and it just, it works sometimes, but other times it just gets like, you're just kind of mumbling through it. But for a female artist, I think it works great because it's just enough difference in it where it doesn't sound like the exact same thing, and at the same time it's not kooky. So I'll go into more details about that as we go song by song, but just kind of wanted to throw out, that's what, over the years of doing this, that's kind of what I have pinpointed is what makes a great Cure cover to me, and of course that's all preference. So if you like it when they totally rearrange a song, then good on you. And I'd love to hear your opinions on these things too, so feel free to chime in once this gets posted. So, shall we begin? Shall we dig up some covers and see what's up? Why not? Okay, let's start out with a weird one. This one actually is one that I just stumbled... No, I didn't stumble across this one. Somebody sent this to me, actually, and I tried to find the thread, so I apologize that maybe it's somebody I talk to a lot now, but initially I think it was on the Facebook page. Somebody sent me a link to this one, and it's very cool. It's a YouTube clip, though, which I said I normally kind of try to stay away from, because if you just punch in The Cure and cover it on YouTube, it can go down a rabbit hole real quick. Sometimes it's really fun. There's some really dreadful ones out there that are hilariously bad. At the same time, you'll stumble across one that's pretty rad and something different, like this one. So our first one is from an artist named Luna Lee, and what she's doing is a forest, and she's covering a forest, playing it all on a gyeojeum, that Korean instrument. So if you're not familiar with the instrument, the Wikipedia version of the description is a traditional Korean stringed instrument with 12 strings, though some more recent variants have 21 strings on them, or other numbers of strings. So usually just 12 strings is probably the best known traditional Korean musical instrument. Basically, it's really cool, and she's plucking it out, and it's really just different, so it's kind of cool to hear that. And it's one of those YouTube like multi-track videos where you can see her doing the cool layers, which usually aren't that cool when you see people doing them, but this works really good because it's like she's tracking it out, and you can hear all the different parts on top of each other plucked out and woven together. There's a bunch of other bands that she covers too, Luna Lee, so it's not exclusive to The Cure by any means, but cool to hear her do that. So if you like the style, you might want to check out some of her other videos, but it's a different style for a forest in particular. So if you're a fan of that instrument and a forest, I recommend this. Alright, here's the next one, and I promise we're not going to just stay on YouTube clips the whole time, but this happened to be one that's floating around out there too. This was taken from a live thing. This is usually something I stay away from too. It's just like a random fan shot on their phone kind of video of a band that just happens to cover The Cure at the end of their set or something. While those are cool, usually the quality is just crappy, and it doesn't really count as a recorded cover if it's just them playing it live. But this apparently was covered on I think a pretty good chunk of their tour, and I know there's a lot of Massive Attack Cure fans out there. So Massive Attack, yeah, they covered 10:15 on a Saturday night. A few different YouTube clips floating around out there, so I'll let you dive into that and try to find the best one. Originally, I felt like it said that Elizabeth Fraser from Cocteau Twins sang it with them, but I couldn't find the clip of her doing 10:15 with them. There was tons of clips of her singing Teardrop with them instead, so maybe that was a mix-up there. But either way, it's a pretty cool Massive Attack cover. If you like Massive Attack, I'm assuming you like 10:15 since you're listening to a Cure podcast. You might want to check this one out. So if someone's a huge fan of either, maybe clarify that for us, but I didn't really have time to dive down that rabbit hole for too long. Massive Attack, 10:15, Saturday night. So that's pretty cool. I'm not a huge fan. Like I said, that one was just kind of like them playing the song. I guess that's where it comes in handy. If you're a huge Massive Attack fan, then you'll probably like that more than just me, who doesn't really have anything for them or against them, really. So yeah, pretty cool. Let's move on to the next one. This one's called Wild Minds, and damn, I feel like somebody sent me this one too. A lot of these were contributions. Huge apologies to everybody, but I just kind of stockpiled them from the last year, so it was a while back, unless I did just stumble across this myself. Either way, Wild Minds is were a Nashville, Tennessee band, and they did a cover of Mint Car, and they recorded it as a B-side to one of their singles, and it later came out on a B-sides extras, it's called, album. So it was a B-side to one of their originals, just kind of a cool pop rock type band. I like it a lot because of the song selection. Definitely helps, whether you're a huge fan of Mint Car or not. I know a lot of Cure fans are divided on that tune, but you never really hear anyone cover Mint Car for it being such a fun pop song. It's just nice to see it get some cover love, and I think they do a really good job with this one. I really like this cover. They keep it pretty similar. Nailing the guitar part and the solo and stuff is really cool, and they keep it peppy. A lot of times when a cover trick would just be to slow it down, or speed it up. But they keep it pretty much the same. It's just a little more rockin'. Definitely like a snarkier rock version of the song with the vocals. Almost has like a Blink-182 vibe or something. They started digging, but yeah, I started. What's up, kitty? I started digging into this band just because I was kind of curious of what their original material sounded like, and it is very power pop, kind of LA pop punk vibe to it. They cited as the Replacements a lot in their influence and stuff like that. But then it took a sad turn when I was looking this band up. From what I could tell, the singer and guitarist Jeremy James has passed away, maybe like February 2018 from what I could tell. So yeah, there was mention of rehab, and then it just seemed like it didn't work out or something. So I don't know the full story, but pretty sad. So yeah, unfortunately the band covered probably the funnest song we'll talk about on this set of songs, and turns out to be the saddest story. So oh well, that's life for you, but sorry to hear that. But they're pretty cool, so I recommend if you're into rock and punk pop stuff too, you might want to check out their other stuff. They have it on Bandcamp, and I'll put a link to that there. So Wild Minds, Mint Car. So, this one's an older one that somehow slipped past me, but from those Nouvelle Vague albums, if you're familiar with those, there's been a few. This was a later one in 2016 that All Cats Are Grey was covered on. So this was a pretty cool one. I had heard like the earlier ones of these Nouvelle Vague or Nouvelle Vague, if you want to do more proper French pronunciation, which I'm still butchering, I'm sure. But they're cool. They're usually like, you know, French pop or models even singing slowed down versions of 80s songs usually, or new wave tunes. So that was kind of the theme. It was like a early 2000s kind of thing that, you know, is really cool initially, but then it kind of just, you know, okay, here we go. I know they're like overly Frenchy version of a New Order song or something, you know, but still very cool. I'm down with it. They sound lovely. But this was Melanie Payne. I'm not sure what name she went by on the actual recording. I think it was that. But All Cats Are Grey was on this set of compilation. And came out in 2016. Like I said, she's I guess a fairly well-known French indie pop star. And it's very cool because it's just kind of beautiful sounding, of course. All Cats Are Grey. It's hard to screw that up and throw in that kind of enough of a twist here. And this kind of, you know, kickstarts my infatuation here of soft female vocals doing Cure songs for the rest of this episode. Yeah, it's a good take on it, and I'd recommend this one. Not exceptionally different or anything if you know the style of what they're trying to do with those albums, but all the while very cool. So here's All Cats Are Grey, Frenchy style.
Textures coat my skin. In the death cell, a single note rings on and on and on.
Alright, for this next one is taking a break from the softer female vocals, but this time we get a very cool punky indie rock kind of rocking out version of Jumping Someone Else's Train by Mourn, who's from Barcelona, I figured out. So they have some cool tunes out there, it turns out. But focusing on the Jumping Someone Else's Train cover, I think I just stumbled across the video on YouTube, but then kind of went down a rabbit hole looking up their other stuff. They nail the music on this, though. It's very, sticks to the original. They keep it kind of trashy and post-punk kind of way. I think this is very new, like in the last 2019 it came out. The female vocal works great on it. Like I said, more girl rock bands should cover this era in particular, I think, because it is like, you know, that early stripped down post-punk sounds really cool when you get like a poppy female vocal. And you know, it works great. There's not a lot to, it's tough to cover stuff from like Disintegration and stuff because it's so epic. But this is just like, you could just be a badass rock band and cover those post-punk band stuff, you know? So yeah, as I hinted, I've been checking out their originals and was very impressed. I like these guys a lot. I've been trying to lock down some actual albums on iTunes and stuff. They're very young, it looks like, but they pull off a very cool, like almost Sonic Youth 90s rock vibe without sounding too like intentionally retro or just like dumb kids trying to rip off that sound of the 90s. It seems very sincere and in a cool way, and it's just fucking fun, and they're like a cool rock band. They have a song called Fun at the Guises that's really really rad, so recommend them. Pretty much out of all the bands we talk about, check out their other stuff too, although this Jumping Someone Else's Train cover is pretty solid. Might be my favorite in this whole batch. So here's a little taste of Mourn, I believe I'm pronouncing it right, from Barcelona, Spain, Jumping Someone Else's Train. Alright, we're going to pop back to some male vocals for this one, and pop back to YouTube too. And maybe I'm being super biased here, could be the case, but like I said, I normally don't go for dudes just sitting around with an acoustic guitar playing the Cure cover for these things. But turns out my friend Ryan, who's been on the show a couple times, especially early on, was going to be on the Just One Kiss episode, but we ended up scrapping it. But he is a great singer-songwriter, and he loves doing some YouTube covers on his webpage. And I don't know if I openly begged him to do some Cure ones, or if he just, was covering that territory and eventually did a 4-song block for his page, for his YouTube page. And so he did a few cool, really Cure covers. And his main thing is that I think stands out different than other dudes out there just strumming along on an acoustic guitar. He's great at taking the idea of changing the keys on Cure songs and putting it in like a different reworking, and it's not easy to do. Maybe I just am too invested in the original Cure song, so it always sounds goofy to me when you change the key or rearrange it in the slightest rhythm. So it always sounds weird, but I feel like he did a great job on these Cure covers of plucking out something different and making it a different vibe to fit his style better. And I think it works great. He did Just Like Heaven, Catch, In Between Days, and Lullaby. So, I gave him crap for only doing the obvious hits, but he definitely leans more towards greatest hits level Cure appreciation, which is totally fine. But, he's just a standout singer, songwriter in his own right, too. So if you like his versions, there's no doubt you wouldn't enjoy his own originals. So I'll put that all in a link as well. But, like I said, he's just doing a more mellow feel for these videos and mellow vibe for the song. Here's a little taste, and you can be the judge of how he does In Between Days and all these. We'll just play a little snippet of Just Like Heaven, actually. Moving away from one particular solo cover, we got 2 compilations that came out. One last year, and one of them was 2016. And it's this whole thing in itself that I was unaware of. Again, I think I was tipped off by a listener to this. So thank you. But it's the blog that celebrates itself. It's a Bandcamp site. And from what I've been able to piece together, it's based out of Brazil by Renato Malizalia. And it's mostly unknown bands, or at least by me. I didn't recognize hardly any of the names, if any, from all over the world, though. It's not just Brazilian bands from what I gathered. So somehow you got contributors, and they're all put it together, and there's not just these Cure ones on there. There's tons of them. So if you're just a big fan of covers in general, I totally recommend going to this Bandcamp site. Like I said, I'll put a link in the Facebook thread, but it's called The Blog That Celebrates Itself. And there's heaps of tributes on there. It's like Dinosaur Jr. ones. There's like a Teenage Fan Club one, Susie, Nick Cave, R.E.M., all the crossover favorites that you love. So, these two compilations, what are they exactly? We'll start with the more recent one, the full Disintegration tribute to honor the anniversary last year of Disintegration. So it's different bands playing one track from Disintegration. It's pretty rad. It's definitely a cool batch of tunes. Overall, it's very non-offensive as far as Cure covers, where none of them were absolutely dreadful. There's a few that I definitely wasn't too thrilled on, but more just that they were trying to do something different, and I was like, but on the most part, very easy to listen to, very cool just to hear different takes on it. A few standout ones even. For all of these, because there are more foreign-based bands, I think there's a language barrier thing, and we've talked about that in the past, where it just kind of boils down to your preference as a listener. But a lot of them feel like it's people singing English that's not their first language, which is totally cool. Sometimes that makes it even cooler in some cases to hear, but other times it does sound like they're struggling a little bit, no fault of their own. I can't even imagine trying to sing a different song in a different language, so have my respect, but at the same time it does make it a little hard to make the cover into great territory when it sounds like the vocals are kind of tiptoeing through everything a bit, maybe. So like I said, it's just a preference. If that doesn't bother you, then you'll love these. If that is something that might just be like a bit of a turn off, so yeah, it might just not be your thing, and that's totally fine. But I'm not really sure where I land on it. Sometimes I'm into it, sometimes I'm not. I dig the accents, but at the same time it does get a little painful on some of these. But for the most part, I kind of wish they would sing more in the actual language that they speak. So that would be cooler, almost just to hear. I'm sure it doesn't translate word for word, but at the same time, whatever the translation would be of the Cure's actual lyrics would be pretty cool to just hear it in a different language even. So anyway, maybe for the next round, but there's heaps to choose from here, so let's dive in. The first one, like I said, was the Disintegration one. Came out last year. A couple standout tracks. I won't go through them all, obviously, but there's Dark Swoon, kicks it off with Plain Song, and this kind of starts my long list of soft, quiet female vocals, because the song, I feel like musically just gets nailed, where it's very cool, sounds very on par with Plain Song, and then just putting a very echoey, soft female vocal behind it, singing it, and with the language barrier again, I feel like it's not as like abrasive and right in your face, so works great. Royal Landscaping Society keeps it going with Pictures of You. So this one is musically really cool because they kind of change it up a little bit. We have more of a drum machine-y feel to it and such, and the vocals sound very cool on this one too. So I like this one a lot. A lot of the middle tracks and singles don't totally blow me away, but at the same time, like I said, a very non-offensive and fun listen, at least a couple times through. But then Echo Drone comes along with the song Disintegration, and again, female vocals stood out on this one. I dug this song and the way they did it. Sounds pretty rad. They bring in the drums like halfway through, I believe, so they kind of change. I guess there's drums and there's like a kick drum maybe going through the whole thing, but then it really kicks in when the higher octave vocals go up on Disintegration. They kind of bring in more of the full rock guitar drum set, so I think that was kind of cool, a cool way to do it, and clever. So, and we'll see Echo Drone again on the next compilation too. And then it rounds out with the almost very cool and the last track, Annalore. They cover Untitled, naturally, and it's really great. It's very soft piano that kicks it all off over the little harmonium part that would be the intro of Untitled. The vocals are super quiet and barely audible, though, which, it's better to go quiet and soft than to be all up in your face, but this one kind of feels a little bit more out of like insecurity or unsure, so more than an artistic statement. Probably just the fact that it is, not their first language, so they're not wanting to crank the vocals and put them right up in your face, which is totally understandable, but I almost feel like this song might have been stronger if it would just been an instrumental even. It sounds so pretty in the music there. So yeah, here's a little taste of that intro, get you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, just one more time on this compilation. I feel like it's pretty solid all the way through. There's definitely a few, love song, they try to change it up a little bit where they're melding two different styles of like a softer into like a more rockin' version halfway through the song. And, points for trying something different, but I don't think it works too good. Static Daydream's version of Fascination Street gets a little more industrial sounding than I would like or something, but for the same time, very cool. So no huge knocks on it at this point. Let's move on to the next one. This one is called The Cure in Other Voices, a tribute from 2016. This is a big tribute, 32 tracks here, so there's a little of everything on this one. And again, mostly unknown bands, a few from the last Disintegration one, but they're doing different songs, so that's cool. So we get like even Static Daydream, who I wasn't too thrilled with their Fascination Street. Actually is one of my more favorite ones on this one. They do A Night Like This, and it works pretty good in that context. So again, it's probably just whatever the song is definitely a huge part of whether the cover works or not and how you choose to do it. Echo Drone is back, the ones that did Disintegration on the last one. This time they're doing All Cats Are Gray, so second mention of a good All Cats Are Gray cover in this episode. If you're a gigantic fan of that song, as most Cure fans are, you might want to check this out. This one actually has a YouTube video too. I'll put that in the Facebook thread as we do. Yeah, pretty cool. Again, might be the standout track from this. So I should probably check out some Echo Drone original material, don't you think? It seems like all roads are leading that way. So yeah, again, the female vocals just really change it up enough to make it sound cool with a slightly different vibe while keeping it very similar to the original and true to the original, as they say. Almost giving it like a Susie vibe if Susie Sue was singing Cure songs, which I think a lot of people would be on board with. So. Again, this compilation just has a huge variety of deep cuts and hits, so I think that really helps it. A lot of times we get these compilations of covers and it's just like the, summer festival set list basically, where it's like, of course, yeah, it's cool and those are the big hits, but at the same time, you're making it for diehard Cure fans for the most part. Why not get a little weird with it? And this one does. There's covers of Exploding Boy, Cold, Big Hand, Strange Attraction, and some of those are some of my favorite ones on here. So it's cool when it's a song you haven't heard a billion times covered anyway. God, if we hear One More Friday I'm in Love or Love Song cover, it's like, so you're going to bring something unique to it too. So a lot of it could be done by just doing a song that hasn't been covered very much. So yeah, a few of the standout ones from this one. One was actually from Darren, who I think is the guy that tipped me off to this whole website and popped up again crossing paths a couple times last year. It was weird. Darren, he goes by Mod Revolve, I believe, on Instagram, is is his handle, and he has a band called the Silence Kit that was on this compilation, and they cover Winter, so your cuts don't get much deeper than that. So just to further show how cool the song selection is on this batch of covers. They do a great job of doing Winter, and also turns out, if I got all these pieces correct, Darren was the guy actually interviewing Robert Smith, going back to our Charlotte Sometimes episode. It looks like it's like a two-part, it's on YouTube, interview that he did for some kind of radio station or magazine or something. And it's a really great interview because Robert gets really comfortable and just starts talking, and that was the one where they initially led me down the road too of Penelope Farmer, his crossover meeting with Robert Smith, and he talks a little bit about that and stuff. So it's a really great interview with Darren and Robert Smith. So Darren's band Silence Kit is on this, so it's crazy. Check it out. Creation Myth is another one I like. They're doing the Exploding Boy, mostly just because it's Exploding Boy, of course, but the vocals are super low, almost inaudible, but it works better on this one, and again, because it's female vocals probably, but they really sound, they really should be turned up, I feel like, on this one even. And the vocals sound great, so it could have been. Maybe they were going for more of a shoegaze feel. So yeah, I think this one, I would have liked a crack at mixing this one, because I think they did it really great, and the vocals actually sound really good, and they should have turned it up a bit more. But again, very cool, mostly because it's Exploding Boy too. Great song selection. How about a little Plastic Static? Yeah, you know those guys? Me neither, but I might after this. They cover Big Hand on this, which is an awesome song to cover. Right up there with Exploding Boy, of picking some of these B-side gems and giving them some love. I feel like there's just this untapped fucking gold mine of Cure B-sides that people could have #1 hits with probably. But so a lot of the same reasons. It's a rare song, female vocals, turned down, sounds really good. This one is a bit more legit in the mixing though. I feel like the vocals are a little higher. They nail the music, and the vocals come off more dreamy, as they should, and not just buried in the mix. I think I would actually put this one on a mix CD for somebody, it almost sounds like just a whole cool song in itself, and not just a cool Cure cover even. So I like this one a lot. There you go, a little Plastic Static. Coming up next, we have Vibrisi doing Cold. So again, another deep cut, but Cure fan favorite. I hate to say it again, but pretty much all the same reasons. A more rare song that I would love to hear covered more often. The music is nailed by the band. I love the way they do it. And again, the softer female vocals add a cool, just different enough touch to it. And it's cool to hear the soft female vocals, you know, with an accent doing like harder, super dark songs like this too, you know, where it's not just some sweet love song kind of vibe, or it's just like all the essence and heart-wrenching feel of cold is definitely in there still. So I dig it. Let's move on. This one is kind of like one I didn't really love, but it's Novanta, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Novanta, doing Close to Me. And I've mentioned in past episodes how Close to Me may be the hardest Cure song to cover, I think, for some reason. I'm not even 100% sure, but a lot of people try it and fail miserably. I think they always tend to try to totally redo it, you know. I've had versions where people just like take out the bass line, take out the beat, take out this and that, and just totally pull the rug out from under it, and it very rarely works. I think there was one in the last batch or on that Perfect as Cats that was pretty cool, but for the most part they're miserably bad, and I don't know why exactly. It's not like an overly complex song by any means, but somehow it's always victim of the changing it too much. In this case, we got a weird one because they are kind of doing the same thing again where they're changing it up a lot, but I feel like it works. It's weird. It takes out the bouncy bass line, it makes it almost slow. It's a slowed down version, and it's very like U2 sounding almost. So I mean, I don't really like it still, but I think that they pulled off what they're going for, and that's a lot better than most covers of Close to Me. And you know, good on them. I could totally hear this being played in like some teen drama in a movie soundtrack, you know. So I don't know, what do you think of this one, guys? So yeah, as you can tell, lots of cool and just different angles on this compilation in particular. So I highly recommend checking this out. I believe you can name your own price with it and just download it for however much, but don't quote me on that directly. Yeah, so I recommend it. I you know, obviously there's a lot more. There's 32 tracks on it. I could bounce around and give you snippets here and there, but I'll kind of just stick to those, and say that it's a cool thing that this guy or whoever's putting all this together at this blog Bandcamp site, it's very cool. From what I can tell, it's the same people putting all these tributes together. So awesome work on that, and it seems like a really cool thing. If you're a fan of covers in general, I think you could really enjoy and dig around in here for hours and weeks and really find some stuff that you may enjoy. So go on over there to the blog that celebrates itself and comb around, see what you can find. Love Bandcamp, man. I don't know why it's not bigger. They keep it so simple, so well done. So we're gonna close out here with a cover that Chaz tipped me off to right as we were wrapping up last year. I'm not sure if I think he mentioned that he's buddies with somebody in this band, but Retox, and it's a hardcore cover of Fascination Street, and it's another really cool one. If you are into hardcore in particular, I think you'll dig this. It's a great song selection to do this for, since it is a more rockin' tune for The Cure. It does have the screaming hardcore vocals. So the music is totally nailed. I feel like they're rocking your balls right off with this thing. They keep it fairly short too. They don't do like the extended Fascination Street where it would drag on and it could very have easily gotten old quick. But I felt like they get in, get out real quick, make their point. like I've said in the past, the heavier interpretations of Cure songs, I usually don't mind so much musically. You know, it is usually the vocals that don't do it for me, and that's just because of the hardcore vocal style is just not my preference, you know. So if you are into it, I think you'll love these. So otherwise, it is really solid. I would really love to hear like a harder version like this with Robert doing his self-titled kind of screaming vocals. Would almost work if it was over something really just badass like this. But again, not really my cup of tea. So I probably wouldn't listen to this over and over again, but I think they do a great job with it. And definitely any hardcore fans of Cure songs out there, give it a look and check out the rest of this band for sure, because I think you'll dig it. Here's Retox, Fascination Street. Alright, thanks for the tip-off again on that one, Chaz. If you guys have any out there, please start sending them to me now. Maybe we'll even do another covers episode before next New Year's. And, I'll always stockpile them, and I'll try to do a better job of actually citing who sent me what so I can give you guys credit. But if any that I mentioned out there you remember sending to me almost a year ago, thank you so much. As we said at the end of the year episode last time, we really love the more anybody gets involved in this podcast in general, and this is a great way to do it. So if you stumble across any cover in particular, I'll let you know if we've covered it or not for the most part. But it's always fun just to keep your eyes peeled, even if it's just a local band, or something that doesn't even really have, a giant music video for it or anything out there. Definitely send it my way. Kind of the more obscure the better, really. It's usually all over the place. If Smashing Pumpkins cover it or something, it's like nobody's really missing that. It's the local band down the road that does this kick-ass cover of some Cure B-side that I want to hear and share with you guys. So if you know of any, definitely feel free to send them our way. I always got a little list going, so I'll put it in there. And otherwise we're gonna get it rolling back in action here with the boys and the giggles and the goofing and all kinds of Cure knowledge. Hopefully 2020 it's gonna be another epic year for the Cure. So glad to be doing this still and keeping it rolling and out for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed some of these covers, and go check some of them out. Like I said, the Facebook page for the Holy Hour podcast will have links to everything I have for these guys, and you can dig in a little deeper if interested. Otherwise, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or there, and that'll connect you to everything, I think, and get the episodes as soon as possible. Follow us on Instagram, where you can feel out or hear our feelers for upcoming episodes, and just keep in touch a little closer to everything. We don't blow it up too much, so don't worry. You only get like maybe a couple a week from us. So Instagram, or contact me directly if you do have a cover you want to share, or thoughts about the podcast, or ideas for episodes. Always feel free to drop me an email at gavinconnor@gmail.com. And YouTube, if you want to catch up from the start, all previous 124 episodes are on YouTube, preserved in all their full-on drunken glory. So go check those out if you want to backtrack. 17secondshirts.bigcartel.com. Check that out, because that's where you will be able to pre-order all of Chaz's latest and greatest designs. I believe a pre-order is currently up for an amazing new Faith shirt. It's really rad. You don't want to miss out on this one. And as always, it's printed on quality Gildan Hammer t-shirts, and they're always reasonably priced. So keep an eye on his Instagram, 17_seconds as well. And that way you'll know how long you have to order this gem. Don't let it slip by. And I am very, very happy to announce that any of our Portuguese-speaking listeners out there are in for a real treat. There is another. Yes, it's true. Another Cure podcast. It's called Curiosa, podcast about the Cure, hosted by our dear friend Isabel from Portugal. And it can be heard at the Global News website. And it's so professional sounding and so smooth sounding. I don't understand a word of it, but I can tell it's amazing. And with perfectly edited sound bites and transitions. And, with Isabel at the helm, you're in for all accurate and wonderfully articulated Cure talk. There are a couple episodes up right now. The first one looks at the Cure in 2019 and what they've accomplished and come to represent to the world and us. And episode 2 appears to look at the origins and influences of the Cure and how it all began. So, check them out. I wish I knew Portuguese so bad. I'll put a link to it on our Facebook page, and we'll start the world domination from there, I guess. So that's the goal, 2020. Cure podcast in every language. Let's do it. And every country, why not? So, all right, until then, that's about all we got. And thanks so much. Look forward to many great episodes this year. And thanks for bearing with me with the slow start here with the covers. But I hope everybody's 2020 is starting out on a good note, full of laughs, full of safe, good times. So I'll leave you now with a cover. I just put out a little EP of my own. So here's yours truly doing Too Late, the widely loved Cure B-side. And until next time, talk hard.